Hey everybody, I just wanted to ask you a question. This is Oceans Week. We're a couple of days away from Oceans Day, and I was reflecting over the week. I hadn't recorded this episode for a while because I wanted to make sure that, I had a good time to reflect about what Ocean Week means to me and what Oceans Day means to me. I mean, June is technically Oceans Month. And so I've been reflecting and being like, what is Oceans Week? Like, what does the ocean really mean today to me? And I thought to myself, I was like, well, what's my favorite part of the ocean? Like, what do I love about the ocean so much that I dedicated my entire life to protecting it? And it really came to me. It was the calmness. For me, it's how quiet it is and how tranquil it is when I'm around it or when I'm in it. And we're going to talk about my favorite part of the ocean. But while I'm talking about that in today's episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast, I want you to think and let me know what your favorite part of the ocean is. Let's start the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin, and this is the podcast where you find out what's happening with the ocean, how you can speak up for the ocean, and what you can do to live for a better ocean by taking action. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a little bit of reflection, and I already kind of told you what this reflection is going to be, and really I want to know what your favorite part of the ocean is. There's a lot of things that you can enjoy about the ocean. You can enjoy the species that live in it, the sharks, the whales, the penguins, the seabirds, the fish, the invertebrates like the octopus, the cuttlefish, which is my favorite animal in the ocean. But there are a lot of things that you can, think that that's your favorite part of the ocean. And you're not wrong. That could be your favorite part of the ocean. But I'm going to talk to you about why I think it's important to reflect about the favorite part and why it's so important that we protect something that we have a favorite to, and I think, when it really comes down to it, a lot of people, we enjoy being around the ocean. I've talked about Wallace J. Nichols' book, or Dr. Wallace J. Nichols' book, where it's called The Blue Mind, where everything blue makes us feel better. Why do we go away to the tropics or to a coastline on vacation? Because we want to be around the ocean. We might be sitting up on a beach, but we're staring at the ocean. We're staring at the different types of blues, the different types of greens sometimes, the different types of browns, but we're near an ocean. Some of us love to hear the waves crashing on the beach. Some of us like to hear the seabirds that are around the ocean that you hear every time you're around the ocean. Some of us just like to hear, some of the kids playing on the beach and near the ocean. Sometimes you like to hear boats that are around. Sometimes you just like to stare at the ocean and just look at the waves come in, or look at sort of the little swirly things that happen when you're on a boat and you want to see what's going on in the ocean. There's a lot of different things that you can have a favorite of, and that's great. That's what I want to hear from you today. That's the part of Oceans Week that I love, is where we reflect and to just be like, what do I love about this thing? Like, for me, I talk about the ocean at least 3 times a week. This week, I talk about it 5 days a week. I write about it in my newsletter. So if you want to join the newsletter, speakupforblue.com/oceans newsletter. I am creating an app. I'm paying money to create an app where everybody can come and talk about the ocean, talk about their favorite part of the ocean. By the way, if you want to be on that newsletter, or if you want to be on that part, you can get updates on that. It's speakupforblue.com/oceans app, ocean app, just all one word, ocean app. But the best part is just being around the ocean. I get excited when I'm about near a coastline, whether it's an ocean or the Great Lakes, which I live by. I get excited when I go see it. I'm like, what am I going to see this time? Especially around the ocean, when you can get, if you, I'm in BC right now at a conference for my regular job. I'm not near the coastline right now, but if I were near the coastline, I'd be like, maybe I see some sea lions. Maybe I see some orcas near the coast that are just coming up on near shore. Some resident orcas, or maybe some transient orcas. Who knows? Like some big orcas. It would be kind of cool to see that. I'd be excited to see that. Sometimes I'm just like hanging out on the coast, like along a dock, and you see what's in the ocean. You see some fish that are hanging out, and I get excited by that. That's something that really makes me feel great. And that could make you feel great too. Just seeing the big animals, the small animals, that's always fun. But for me, what it really comes down to, and it didn't really hit me until this week when I was really thinking about it. It's the calmness. It's not necessarily silence, but it's just how I feel so calm, whether I'm above the ocean surface or below the ocean surface. It just makes me feel great. I honestly tell you that being around the ocean for me is therapeutic, and it's my favorite part. I love hearing the waves crash on the beach. And it's not the same when I hear a recording of it. You know how like some people, they'll fall asleep to, sort of hearing the ocean waves crashing on the beach. That doesn't do it for me. That's a little bit annoying for me. But when I'm at the beach, and it's the morning, I'll tell you, here's a great example. For 2 years in a row, I went to Dominican Republic. We stayed at an all-inclusive resort. The first time I went with just my family, my two girls, my wife. The second time I went with my family, my two girls, my wife, and another family who had two kids and, a husband and wife. They're good friends of ours. They're like family. We would go in and you had to reserve your seats before, like, by putting a towel on it. So I would get up early. I would get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock. I would go downstairs. I would take our towels that we'd keep the night before, and I would go and I would put the towels on the lounge chairs that were the best lounge chairs, where we can get almost front view of the ocean. Right? That was the goal. That was for us to be as close as possible to the ocean, so that I can, when I'm sitting in my lounge chair and I'm reading my book, every once in a while I can turn and I can look at the ocean and just stare at it. That was the best part. But the real, true best part of that time on my trip was that I got to be with the ocean by myself. Just me, nobody else on the beach. I'd get up extra early. I would go downstairs. It would be sunrise, so the sun had already risen. There was maybe a couple of staff members out there, and it would just be me, the beach, and the ocean. And what I would do is I'd put my stuff down. I would get the right chairs. I would walk down to the beach, or walk down the beach to the edge of the water, and I would just put my feet in the water. And I would just stay there for 5 minutes and just enjoy, every once in a while, the waves coming in, covering my feet, covering my legs, and just sitting there enjoying that warmth, little bit of salt from the ocean, but just feeling that ocean just be around my legs. It was like the best feeling in the world. And then I would stay there for about 5 minutes, and I would go back to my lounge chair. I would sit up, I would grab my drink, which is like a water, and then I would just read a book. And I would, every once in a while, put my book down, and I would just put my head back and just stare out into the ocean. And sometimes I was looking at, as the waves were coming and hitting the beach. Other times I was looking at, the waves, or how big the waves were offshore as far as I could see. And then I'd look medium, kind of like intermediate in between there. And all of it would just be so I can take my time and enjoy the ocean. All my thoughts would leave my head. All I wanted to do was just take in the ocean. And when you're at an all-inclusive resort, for me and my family, we were there for 7 days. I do that for 7 days straight, even the last day I'm there. Maybe not the first day I'm there, because I don't get there in the morning, but the last day I'm there, I'll do it as well. And I just love it. It is my favorite time of the trip. I love spending time with my kids, of course, but just I get this time that I get to myself with the ocean, the thing that I love the most, and the thing that I don't get to see all the time. I get to see maybe once a year, sometimes if I'm lucky 2 or 3 times a year. But I got to see this ocean, and I got to spend time in it, and I got to just relax, just me and the ocean. No thoughts in my head, hearing the waves crash, and I felt probably I always feel the most calm I've had in that year. As I said in the 2 episodes ago, everybody lives a hectic life. In Canada, near Toronto, we live a hectic life. We're always running around. We're always, I live a pretty laid back life, but it's still pretty hectic when you think about it. But when I'm around that ocean, and I feel like if I lived around that ocean, I'd take more time and more moments, I hope I would anyway, to be around that ocean and enjoy just hearing it, just seeing it, just calming my mind and just being like, you know what? This is the best thing ever. This is the best thing that I've ever had. And I want to continue getting it. And I'm going to come back every day until I have to leave to go back from my vacation, or until I have to go home if I was living near the ocean. But that's what I would do. That's what I love to do. And And I'll tell you, like, being above the ocean is great, but being below the ocean is even better. And I'm not talking just snorkeling. I'm talking about scuba diving. It's one of my favorite pastimes. I don't get to do it as often as I normally do. I'm hoping my one daughter will actually learn how to scuba dive and we would get her a certification so that we can both scuba dive together. Still nervous about that because it's my daughter, but regardless, it would be fun to do. It would be a great bonding moment. But when I scuba dive with my wife every once in a while. When I scuba dive, it's just calm. There's no talking. There's just you and the animals and the reefs in the ocean, right? Because I usually go to a tropical place. And you see all these different types of fish. Every once in a while, you'll see like a stingray, a shark, maybe a sea turtle. And as much as people would be like freaking out if they saw a shark, it's super calming to be around a shark. Now, these are sharks. I've only been around sharks that are not harmful. The largest shark I've been around is like a reef shark that's probably like a white tip reef shark that's probably like 6 or 7 feet. I think is the biggest one I've been around. I've never been around what you'd quote unquote think would be an aggressive shark, like a bull shark or a tiger shark in the water. Never been around like even a hammerhead shark, things like that. Maybe a bonnet hammerhead every once in a while, but nothing that big. Nurse sharks and things like that, but I'm not too concerned about them. But they're calming. Swimming beside them, they swim up beside you and they're just swimming. They're checking you out, seeing what you're up to. But it's just fun to see. And then watching a sea turtle swim, I have to admit, maybe my heart races a little bit just because it's so cool to see and you didn't expect to see it. But I've seen sea turtles swim over my head. I've seen sea turtles swim underneath me. I've seen sea turtles sleeping just underneath like a reef. And so that they're kind of pinned underneath this rock and they're just kind of chilling out and sleeping. I've just seen a lot of different cool stuff. I've seen a lot of stingrays, small, large, it doesn't matter. Coral reefs that are like, some look great, some don't look great. It's always calming though. It's like all you're hearing is sort of the waves going back and forth, maybe at the top if you're close to the top, or the feeling like you're breathing in your respirator. But other than that, it's pretty quiet. It's just pretty chilled out. And you're just like, this is cool. All you're seeing, like you can almost hear the documentary music in the back of your head because I've watched so many documentaries. But all you're just listening to is just the waves, the water, your breathing patterns, some of the bubbles that are coming around from your breathing. But it's just super calm. And that is one of my favorite times, being under the ocean and just chilling out with scuba diving and enjoying the animals, enjoying the different parts, like seeing the big animals and even the small animals is probably like my favorite part, to really look at the different scales of the ocean to see that there are some large fish and large animals out there, but also some really tiny, super tiny things that I can barely see. And if I looked quickly, I wouldn't see them. But if I took my time to look for what I wanted to see, like nematodes, like so these flatworms that are gorgeous. Like I remember seeing one flatworm that was like neon orange and with black dots on it. And you're just like, are you kidding me? You've got to be kidding me. This actually exists. There's just some pretty cool things. And one thing I remember vividly before I end this episode is swimming up at a coral reef. It was one of my first coral reefs I've ever gone swimming with. It was right before my daughter was born, and we were in Jamaica. We were at Port Antonio, just off the coast of Port Antonio, and we were down in this reef. And this reef was a pretty cool reef. It was almost like alleyways, like had rockscapes. Just as you were swimming in between these rockscapes, it was like these narrow alleys, but close, like enough, like wide enough where you can spread your arms and you had room. And there would be all these, like at the bottom of that alleyway, there would be these structures, like these sponges and things like that. And they get higher and higher as you go up, as the sort of the rock surfaces kind of got up and we went shallower as throughout our dive. We'd start off deep and then go shallower. And we would come up. I remember this one particular sponge that I was coming up. I was swimming just above that. And then for some reason, I just decided to look in the sponge because it had like a really big open hole. And I started to go up, and I started to like bring my feet up and keep my head down. And I was basically almost upside down. I was just looking in, not touching anything. I was just looking in. And I was looking at this. It was like a crab and shrimp at the same time. It had these bands across it. Like it had like a maroon and white band. They're pretty big in the ornamental industry, these shrimp. and it was like looking at me, and it had his claws out, and it was like, what is this? I'm gonna put like make myself look big and try to attack this thing. It never really attacked me, but it was just really cool to see. But it was the animal that was just kind of chilling out in that area, living in that area for protection. And I just continued to swim along, and I was like that, and just thinking like that was so cool. And that's one of the biggest or best memories I have of swimming in the ocean, was to be able to witness that, and it would be quiet while I did that. It was just one of those fun things. And I, continued swimming with the group that I had. There was like 3 of us plus the dive master. And it was just a fun thing. It was just a fun tour where I got to see some really cool things. And every time I scuba dive, I find something new. And it's probably one of the most addictive things to do. It's expensive, but it's addictive. But it's also one of the most like calming things to do. So it's a lot of fun. And I implore you to enjoy the ocean. I implore you to share with me and just with others what your favorite part of the ocean is. Is it the calmness? Is it sometimes the chaos that you see the ocean in, with the big waves and how it can throw boats around? Is it the fish? Is it the marine mammals? Is it the invertebrates? What part of the ocean do you love the most? That's what I want to hear on this day on Oceans Week. Let me know. You can hit me up on how to protect the ocean on Instagram, at how to protect the ocean, and let me know what you thought. I would really love to hear. Just DM me. I would really love to hear what your favorite part of the ocean is, and as I've shared mine. So that's it for today's episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on this reflective episode that we did today. I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate you sharing this episode. If you think this will help somebody kind of enjoy the ocean and enjoy the calmness, get rid of the politics, get rid of the conservation part, and just sit down and enjoy the ocean. So I want to thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you listening each and every time I publish an episode. And my name is Andrew Lewin. This has been another episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.